Let me begin with a simple question. Have you ever noticed that the most meaningful decisions of life are rarely made in a crowd? Think about it. Let me start with a thought that may feel uncomfortable, yet deeply true. Not every man who walks alone is broken. Some are being built. We live in a world that celebrates constant connection. Messages, relationships, validation, noise. And in that noise, solitude is often misunderstood. People assume that if a man chooses to be alone, something must be wrong with him. But very often, what looks like loneliness from the outside is actually listening on the inside. There comes a time in a man's life when God gently slows things down. Relationships pause, attractions fade. Social excitement loses its charm. And in that quiet space, a man begins to hear questions he was too busy to ask before. Who am I really? What do I stand for? What am I living for? Solitude is not the absence of love. It is the preparation for meaningful love. Because love is not just emotion. Love is responsibility. Love is direction. Love is knowing where you are going so you don't take someone to the wrong place. And God, in His wisdom, sometimes says, first become strong enough to walk alone. Then I will give you someone to walk with. In solitude, a man meets his fears without distraction. He confronts his ego without applause. He learns discipline when no one is watching. This is where character is formed, not in celebration, but in silence. Many men don't step away from relationships because they don't value companionship. They step away because they value it too much to treat it casually. They understand that if their life has no structure, love becomes confusion. If their purpose is unclear, love becomes dependency. God's calling often requires clarity, and clarity rarely comes in chaos. Think about it. The strongest foundations are built quietly. No music, no crowd, just patience, precision, and time. In the same way, God builds certain men in solitude so that when love comes, it does not complete them, it complements them. Chosen solitude is very different from forced loneliness. One drains you, the other strengthens you. One feels empty, the other feels purposeful. When a man learns to be content alone, he no longer begs for attention. He no longer settles for convenience. He waits for alignment. And when love finally enters such a life, it does not become an escape from emptiness. It becomes a shared journey between two whole individuals. So if you find yourself in a season where companionship feels distant, don't rush to label it as rejection. Ask what refinement is happening. Ask what lesson is being taught. Ask what strength is being developed. Because God never delays without reason. He prepares. And remember this, those who walk with God in solitude are never truly alone. They are being guided. They are being shaped. And when the time is right, what enters their life stays with purpose. Solitude, when chosen with faith, is not a step back from love. It is a step closer to becoming the kind of person who can honor it. There is a quiet truth about life that we often overlook. Not every pause is a punishment, and not every absence is a loss. Sometimes, what feels like emptiness is actually space being created, space for growth, space for clarity, space for God to work without interruption. Many men reach a point where relationships no longer excite them the way they once did. Conversations feel repetitive, attachments feel heavy, and suddenly, being alone feels lighter than being surrounded. The world is quick to judge this phase, but wisdom invites us to reflect instead. Because solitude is not a sign that love has failed, it is often a sign that the soul is asking deeper questions. God has a unique way of calling people. He does not always speak loudly. Often, He whispers. And to hear a whisper, one needs silence. When a man chooses solitude, he is not rejecting love, he is respecting timing. He understands that love entered at the wrong season can become a distraction rather than a blessing. Before building a life with someone else, he feels an inner urge to build a life that actually stands. Solitude strips life down to its essentials. There is no one to impress, no one to perform for, no one to blame. In that simplicity, a man begins to see himself clearly, not as he appears on social media, not as he is perceived by others, but as he truly is. Strengths become evident, weaknesses can no longer hide, and this honesty is uncomfortable, but it is powerful. Because God shapes character in moments where there is no applause. He develops patience when there is no immediate reward. He builds faith when answers are delayed. These lessons cannot be learned in constant companionship. They require stillness. Some men are not avoiding commitment, they are avoiding confusion. They know that a relationship cannot compensate for lack of purpose. Love cannot replace discipline. Affection cannot substitute direction. So they step back not to escape, but to align. There is also a deeper courage in choosing solitude. It takes strength to sit with your thoughts. It takes maturity to wait rather than rush into emotional comfort. It takes faith to believe that what is meant for you will not miss you. And when a man learns this, desperation leaves him. He no longer seeks validation to feel worthy. He no longer fills silence just to feel needed. He becomes steady. This steadiness is what makes future love healthier. Because two fulfilled individuals walking together create harmony, not dependency. When love arrives after solitude, it is calmer, wiser, and more grounded. It is no longer about completing a void, but about sharing a vision. If you are in a phase where you feel drawn to solitude, don't fight it unnecessarily. Listen to it. There is guidance hidden in that silence. There is refinement happening beneath the surface. God does not isolate people to weaken them. He separates them to strengthen them. And when the lesson is learned, when the foundation is firm, when the heart is ready, connection returns, this time not as a craving, but as a conscious choice. Solitude is not the end of love. For some, it is the beginning of a deeper, more purposeful one. There is a phase in life that does not come with announcements. It arrives quietly. Friends become fewer, conversations become shorter, and the desire to explain yourself slowly disappears. From the outside, it may look like withdrawal. But on the inside, something very sacred is taking place. This is the phase where a man stops running. Running after approval, running after attraction, running after the idea that happiness must always come from someone else. In this silence, God does not rush him. God watches him. Because when a man is constantly surrounded, he is influenced. But when he is alone, he is revealed. Solitude removes the noise that hides truth. It allows a man to hear the questions that matter. What is my responsibility? What kind of person am I becoming? What am I meant to contribute? Many men choose solitude not because love failed them, but because they refuse to let love become an escape from self-work. They understand that if inner wounds are ignored, relationships become places of expectation instead of spaces of support. So they step back not in fear, but in wisdom. God often prepares people privately before using them publicly, and preparation is rarely comfortable. In solitude, impatience surfaces, ego complains, doubt whispers, yet it is also where faith deepens. A man learns to depend less on external reassurance and more on inner stability. This is not a rejection of connection. It is a refinement of it. Because love without self-awareness creates attachment. Love without direction creates confusion. Love without purpose creates dependency. Solitude teaches a man to be complete, not perfect, but grounded enough to stand without leaning. There is a powerful shift that happens when a man becomes comfortable in his own company. Silence no longer scares him. Time alone no longer feels empty. He begins to value quality over quantity, depth over distraction. And when this happens, his standards rise naturally. Not out of arrogance, but clarity. He no longer seeks someone to fill his loneliness. He seeks someone who aligns with his values. He no longer asks, who will choose me? He asks, who can walk this path with me? God's calling often demands focus, and focus requires sacrifice. Not everyone can accompany you in every season. Some seasons are meant for companionship, others for cultivation. If you are in such a season, don't measure your life by comparisons. Just because others seem surrounded does not mean they are fulfilled. Just because you are alone does not mean you are behind. Growth is not always visible, but it is always valuable. Remember, a seed grows in darkness before it breaks the surface. When solitude is embraced with humility and trust, it transforms into strength. It teaches patience. It sharpens discernment. It builds character that cannot be shaken by temporary emotions. And when love eventually enters such a life, it is no longer rushed or desperate. It arrives naturally, calmly, at the right time, not as a distraction from purpose, but as a companion to it. So do not fear solitude when it appears. Respect it, learn from it, walk with God through it. Because those who learn to stand alone with conviction are the ones who later love with stability, depth, and wisdom. Solitude is not an ending. For many, it is the quiet beginning of becoming who they were always meant to be. There is a moment in life when a man realizes that being busy is not the same as being fulfilled. His days may still be full, his phone may still ring, people may still be around, but inside there is a pull toward quietness. Not boredom, not sadness. A deeper calling towards stillness. This is often the moment when solitude begins to feel more honest than company. Many misunderstand this phase. They think something has gone wrong. But very often nothing is broken. Something is simply being rearranged. God has a way of creating distance from distractions before introducing direction. Because clarity does not shout, it waits. When a man chooses solitude, he is not turning away from love, he is turning inward. And turning inward is not selfish when the intention is growth. In solitude, there is no audience, no performance, no pressure to be impressive. Life becomes simple, and in simplicity truth surfaces. A man starts noticing patterns. Why certain relationships drained him. Why certain choices kept repeating. Why certain emptiness returned even after affection. These realizations rarely come in noise. They come in silence. God uses solitude to strengthen a man's inner spine, to teach him how to stand firm without leaning on constant reassurance. Because a relationship built on emotional dependency eventually collapses under its own weight. But a relationship built by two emotionally stable individuals becomes a place of peace. This is why some men step back before they step forward. They understand that love cannot be used as a distraction from self-responsibility. They understand that attraction without alignment leads to confusion. So they pause, they wait, they work on themselves. Solitude also teaches patience, a quality the world is losing quickly. In waiting, a man learns that not everything needs an immediate response. Not every emotion needs instant expression. He becomes less reactive and more reflective. And this inner calm slowly changes how he sees people, how he chooses, how he commits. There is also humility in solitude. Without external validation, a man sees his limitations clearly. And instead of hiding them, he starts improving them. This quiet discipline builds confidence, not loud confidence, but steady confidence. When a man reaches this stage, love stops being a search and starts being a recognition. He no longer chases, he no longer settles. He waits for resonance, not excitement alone. God does not delay companionship to cause pain. He delays it to prevent regret. If you are in a season where solitude feels natural, don't rush to escape it. Use it. Reflect. Strengthen your foundation. Ask the hard questions. Align your actions with your values. Because when a man is aligned within, he attracts relationships that are aligned too. And when love comes from alignment, it does not create chaos, it creates stability. Remember, the deepest roots grow unseen. The strongest pillars are set quietly. And the most meaningful connections are formed when two people meet not out of emptiness, but out of completeness. Solitude is not a sign that love is absent. It is often a sign that love is being prepared carefully, patiently, and wisely. There is a stage in life when a man realizes that chasing every opportunity for connection leaves him more tired than fulfilled. The conversations are there, the attention is there, yet something feels incomplete. It is not that he dislikes people. It is that his heart is asking for depth, not noise. This is usually when solitude begins to feel like a friend rather than an enemy. Solitude has a bad reputation. It is often confused with loneliness. But loneliness is the pain of feeling unseen, while solitude is the peace of seeing clearly. One weakens you, the other strengthens you. And many men instinctively sense when they need strength more than comfort. In solitude, life slows down. Without constant emotional engagement, a man starts observing himself. His reactions, his desires, his habits, patterns that were hidden behind relationships become obvious. This awareness is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Growth always begins with honesty. God often invites a man into solitude when he wants to refine, not reject. It is like taking a sword away from battle, not because it is useless, but because it needs sharpening. In the quiet, discipline is developed, self-respect is restored, focus returns. A man who has not learned to be alone often looks for love to fill gaps. He expects someone else to provide meaning, motivation, or stability. But love is not meant to be a crutch. It is meant to be a partnership. Solitude teaches a man to carry his own weight before asking someone to share the journey. This is why some men step away even when opportunities for relationships are available. They are not afraid of commitment, they are afraid of committing without clarity. They understand that attraction fades, emotions fluctuate, but values endure. And values are shaped in silence. There is also a spiritual maturity that comes from walking alone for a while. When distractions reduce, inner dialogue deepens. A man becomes more reflective, less impulsive. He learns to respond rather than react. This inner balance changes how he shows up in every area of life. When such a man eventually chooses love, it is not driven by loneliness. It is driven by alignment. He does not ask for someone to complete him. He invites someone to complement him. He does not rush, he recognizes. God's timing often feels slow because it is precise. He allows solitude to teach lessons that companionship cannot. He builds inner stability so that outer relationships do not become chaotic. If you are in this phase, do not see it as a delay. See it as training. Every moment of reflection, every quiet evening, every unanswered question is shaping you into someone more grounded. And remember, solitude is not permanent, it is seasonal. It prepares the heart to love without fear, to give without losing itself, and to commit without confusion. The man who learns to walk alone with purpose eventually walks with someone in peace. Solitude is not the absence of love, it is the foundation upon which meaningful love is built. Thank you.